Good day and welcome to Eureka Archery. My name is Anwar Matsa'at, and in the previous video I was sharing with you on our latest project, our latest Eureka Archery project, which is the Equal Warrior Archery. Now this project is a very big endeavor. It is a new direction that Eureka Archery is moving into 2022. Now for many years Eureka Archery has been rather nomadic. We are traveling from places to places, and for quite some time we were based in the Damansara Heights Community Center. And after a while, myself as an archery coach, I started coaching in Bukit Kiara Archery Range. I've also doing some coaching works here and there for small groups. But ultimately in December, towards the end of the year, we were given this opportunity to develop this land in Kuala Lumpur. It's actually in Taman Megah, Kepong, approximately 10 minutes from the city center. After this, I will just take the camera and show you that we can actually see the Petronas Twin Towers, or KLCC, from where we're at. We are actually shooting towards the KL general direction. Other than that, it is about 5 minutes, approximately 5 minutes from One Kiara, 5 minutes from Kepong on the other side, and behind me here is actually a river, and behind that river is Taman Segambut. Technically speaking, this is quite smack in the middle of the city, and in this range we were able to test out long distance shooting, night shooting, and this becomes our very own project. So over here, this is a collaborative work with a couple of parties, and I will introduce them as time progresses. Now, when we first came here, it was a papaya farm. There were papaya trees, approximately 1,300 trees total. And previously, this land was not used or was not utilized commercially. After that, we came in. That was in the first week of December. We scouted the place. We brought in our drones. We brought in our range finders, and we started to see there is a huge potential here. So after discussing with our team, we've discussed with our partners, one of the idea is to bring in a container, or rather a shipping container, that has been repurposed into a small office. Now for an archery range, of course, you will need to have a covered office, a place where you can secure your stuff, where you can keep your stuff and lock it up. Secondly is that it is much more mobile, so we're not going to be here forever, probably about 3 to 5 years tops, and we want to be able to have our archery range easily transported. I mean, if we have to move to a different location or we have to replicate the situation, we are able to do it through a modular system, meaning it is a plug and play kind of system. And not only that, we try to use recycled materials or reclaimed materials. For example, the shipping container that we've got used to belong to the Scouts group here, and Mr. Charlie, who is a scout for many years, he has basically sourced this out for us, and it is actually very cheap. Shipping containers, you have to be careful if you want to build a place that you're going to work or you're going to live in, because you want to make sure that the shipping container is safe for you. For example, there are lots of second-hand shipping containers that you can buy. However, these shipping containers may pose a health risk to you, because we never know what is being transported. It could be toxic waste, it could be dangerous chemicals. So I'm not sure whether in Malaysia we are able to source out single journey shipping containers or one-way shipping containers, but we do know that this particular container we've got used to be an office for the Scouts. So when we brought it in, we placed it towards near the entrance of the land. We tried it out for a few days. We even got in touch with some community groups who wanted to do their weekly activities. So they came in, they tried it out, and they had some life skills training, fire starting, some introduction to survival preparedness, and we hosted archery for them here. A rather small group. As they tried it out, they gave us feedbacks, and in other times at night I've actually got in my Eureka archers. These are my students who are learning how to shoot. And they came in at night, tried it out with our solar system. Now initially, we used solar 100%. The lightings, the fan, the spotlight were all solar powered. And upon doing so, we have found the limitations of solar. For example, that at night you can only shoot up to 2 to 3 hours at most. And it is sufficient for our purposes. But after discussing with the partners, after getting the feedback from all the archers, we have decided to go for a hybrid system. So we ended up planning out the wiring system, and we do know there is one source of electricity here. However, to tap it all the way back to this location, the original location, the initial location, it will cost too much. So after further investigation, after shooting again and really getting more feedback, we decided to relocate the entire shipping container a bit more to the front. Why? Number one, we want to have adequate parking spaces because when we did the community archery session, parking was rather haphazard. And secondly is that this gives us a better flow having it here. So with the container in place, we have a few main considerations that we have to really get working on. First of all is shelter. Since the shipping container was second-hand and towards the middle of December, it started to rain really heavily, and we found out there were holes in the roof of the container and everything got soaked even before the flooding begins. And so with that, back to the drawing board, I sketched it out a bit on a Apple Keynote. That is a software similar to PowerPoint, and I did some basic drawings and came up with this idea. The idea of having a sheltered archery range, and we are able to shoot up to 130 meters at least for phase 1. Once the drawings were in, we have found there are immediate requirements. For example, you definitely need a toilet. You would definitely need, well, since we are here in Malaysia, a majority of our archers are Muslim, so we would have to provide I would say a praying room, or rather a faith room, for them to be able to pray in a comfortable environment. Because when we did our Eureka Archers training, some of our archers, I mean, they are really, I would say, really out of this world. They wouldn't mind praying on the grass or just inside the container. They don't mind that. They are very flexible in terms of where they pray. However, I feel that to be a really, I would say, an archery center that caters to the needs of all, we were obliged to actually have a surau, or rather a faith room, for them to conduct their prayers in a safe and, I would say, comfortable environment. Towards the end of the year, we found out that all the hardware materials, the prices has increased substantially, and it has been increasing so much that our budgeting has actually been, I would say, is no longer relevant to what we actually expected. So with that in mind, we sourced out reclaimed materials. We sourced out, I would say, things that people really don't want. So we upcycled all that. We discussed with the contractors to use these materials to build up the archery range. So after that, we also did some lighting, some wiring works. We want to make sure that when people come here, they feel welcome, they feel safe, and they don't lose their arrows at night. So the idea here is that the archery range will be open morning till afternoon towards evening, and we want to focus on night shooting because being in Kuala Lumpur, a lot of the archers, or rather the people here in Kuala Lumpur, they would have to go to work, and most of them hold full-time employments. And the only time that they have to actually do archery is after work at night. So looking into that consideration, we have decided that yes, here we will have night shooting, and for that we brought in our spotlights. Initially, as I mentioned earlier, it was using solar, but now we are using a hybrid system. The floodlights are using the main power electricity line, and the spotlights will then be using solar. At the moment, that is the arrangement that we plan to do, but as time progresses, we do plan to invest in more solar or sustainable energy sources to really embody the idea of the eco-warrior concept. In regards to the equipments used here, the kind of targets that we use is custom. We actually design the custom shapes of the targets following the guidelines presented in the rule book by the HDHIAA. Now that is an international archery organization governing traditional archery, and in Malaysia we have Malaysian champions who have actually won the HDHIAA games in Hungary, in Bhutan, and in August 2022 it will be again in Hungary. So we do plan to train our archers and hopefully to send a team to Hungary to compete for Malaysia and for Eureka Archery. Now those are in the works, those are in the plans, but we will never know what will happen in 2022. Time is too early to tell, but we can only plan and we can only really just follow the plan by putting in the effort, the dedication and the time to achieve that goal. So as I mentioned earlier, the targets we made are custom. These targets are custom made. It's designed by myself, again using the software I was mentioning earlier, which is the Apple Keynote. And these targets are in accordance to the guideline by the HDHIAA, so that when people come here to train, they can train and replicate the requirements of an international game. That way, when Malaysians are able to go again to overseas, to international games to compete, this center will be able to provide them the adequate and sufficient training environment, replicating the games that will be done in the international scene. So these targets are printed EVA foam, and these are not target faces. It is printed on the foam on the front, and we actually use reclaimed foam to back it up. So again, that is our dedication to sustainable practices, because most archery ranges, they will use a single-use EVA foam. After it has been battered, after it has been damaged, they end up throwing it away. For us, we rather recycle that, because there are ways that you can do to reuse these parts. Usable parts can be laminated together, can be fused together with contact adhesive, and it creates a new variety of targets, which will again be used back in the range. And so once we first have our new range layout here, when it rained, we noticed that the range becomes flooded. It becomes like a paddy field. So after looking into the land and discussing with our contractors as well as our backhoe driver, we've decided to basically flatten out the land to make sure that it is smooth, and we also dug a trench about 3.5 feet wide and about 2.5 deep. It goes all across the range, and it turns left into a small waterway that brings all the excess water down to the big river. Now, after doing that, there were significantly less water retention on the soil, but the geography, the land itself is full of rocks, it is full of trash, it is full of, I would say, waste material, so it creates a rather uneven surface. So we basically dug all that up, turned the soil all around, and what we were left with is a rather rocky terrain. Now that really shows how much stuff is in the land. So we got to make sure that we remove the sharp stones, there are jagged rocks, there was glass and some construction materials in there. So we want to make sure we remove all that first, and after that is done, we hope that the grass will grow much nicer, much more smoother, so that when we shoot and if accidentally miss, the arrow won't be lost in a very, I would say, thick undergrowth. Rather, it will be much more visible for us to be able to retrieve it even at night. So after this, I will bring you through, show you the area and what we have done and what we are currently trying to finish up, and we want to launch this place in January. So mark your calendar, archers in Kuala Lumpur, in Selangor, in Klang Valley. In January, hopefully we will have our soft launch, and we have actually made a game here. And this game was targeting really for archers who wants to shoot long range. It had a very small turnout, but that is fine because a lot of the archers were participating in this Selangor Open Archery Tournament. which was planned for many months back. And for us, this was just an idea, and we just wanted to celebrate the capacity that we have to shoot long ranges. Other than that, we were honored to host Mr. Tuan Al-Rafai. Tuan Al-Rafai is a traditional archery champion from Malaysia. He has won many medals in Turkey, in Hungary, and he is, I would say, one of the only Asian certified archer based on the IAA games that was in Hungary. So he actually came here and he helped us to give us some technical advice. He also helped us to make sure that our coaches is up to standard. I myself was trained under him, and when he was here, we really made sure that we covered all bases, because the last time I was training with Tuan Al-Rafai was in 2019. That was before I went to Bhutan, and now we were given the opportunity to meet here in this archery range. There were a lot more that we could cover and we could learn, and the kind of techniques that we are currently developing here, it is meant to make archery accessible, as well as making you as accurate as you can based on the techniques that was used to win international tournaments. Right now, from idea to reality, it is now in our third week of being here in Eco Warrior Archery. We have erected the basic structure first. After discussing with the contractor, the main thing we want to do is to have the ground level all covered up, and after that, once this is done, we will proceed to create upper decking for, number one, I want to do an elevated observation of the range. Why this is important? So that when we do our games here, we can actually live stream it using the current technologies that we have, which is a multi-cam streaming system straight to our YouTube and our Facebook page. The kind of software that we actually use is all mobile based, so you don't need a physical computer with you. We just use our phones and a tablet, and it is run through the wireless system, and you're able to capture multiple camera angles through multiple sources, and with that we aim to create a more, I would say, a more visually appealing archery competition reporting, so that this way, if people can't participate, they can still watch it. The more eyeballs there is on the archery game, the better it is for us, and ultimately the better it is for the entire archery community. We want to create that visibility here, and we all know through visibility it creates interest, and with interest it's much easier for us to convert non-archers to archers, and ultimately moving towards international games, as well as an ultimate, I would say, holistic lifestyle, using archery as the basis. And so now we at least have a covered area so that we can shoot comfortably here, and based on the calculations, we are able to cater to at least 2, 4, 8, 12 archers at any given time to shoot in the shade. However, if we are to organize games here, we will move the shooting line a bit to the front, so that the covered area can be reserved for equipment, sitting area, as well as general rest area. So that's the current progress and updates from me. My name is Anwar Matsa'at of Eureka Archery here in Eco Warrior Archery. Like, subscribe and share. Be an archer today.